All right, so now we are going to add a finish line to our game, and we're going to create its logic too. So when the player hits the finish line, it should automatically restart the game. All right, perfect. So let's open our photo editor here and create a new square. So it's going to be maybe 128 by 128 pixels. All right, let's zoom in a bit. Then let's create another one, but this one is going to be black. Let's create it like so. So just half of the bigger square. It's going to be a quarter of the bigger square. And let's create another one right here. Perfect. Now we have our finish line texture. So let's grab this and export it to our project. Okay, let's call it finish line. Yeah, finish line is good. And let's jump back to Unity. Perfect. Now we should have it in the sprites folder. Cool. All right. Now let's open the prefabs folder, open the chunks folder, and create a new, let's say, long chunk. So duplicate it and call it finish chunk. Perfect. Let's open it. Okay, let's make the scene view a bit bigger, like so. All right. Nice. So now we want to create a new game object, and this is going to be a quad. So it's basically a plane, but with less vertices. And we're going to rotate it. So let's focus on it first. Okay, let's rotate it along the x-axis like so. And let's try and apply, let's remove the collider first because we won't be using this one. So let's remove it. Then we want to create a new material for it. So go to the materials folder, create a new material called finish line. Perfect. Let's now assign this material to our new finish line. Cool. Okay. Now we can click on this little circle to assign a texture to our object. So we are going to select the finish line. All right. That's nice. Then you want to make the finish line to be as wide as the road. So let's select it and set a width of 10. Perfect. Let's make it a bit higher like so, maybe 0.2. All right. Okay, let's center it on the road. Let's make it a bit further. Yeah, let's say right here is good. Okay, nice. So now you can see that the texture is kind of stretched. To fix this, you can select the material and increase the tiling on the x-axis of the texture, like so. So for it to keep the same proportions, you want to multiply this by 10 because we set 10 for the width of the finish line. Okay, perfect. So now let's rename this quad to finish line renderer. Right. Then you want to create a new game object as a parent of this finish line and call it finish line. All right. We can add a box collider to this to be able to detect collisions between the finish line and the player. Okay, so now I need to grab this and center it along the finish line like so, and then I can grab the whole object and put it at the same position it was before. All right, nice. You can resize the box collider here by checking this box. Okay, so let's resize it a bit. It's going to be a bit taller and wider, of course, as wide as the road. So it's going to be 10 on the scale, something like that. Perfect. Okay, let's set this collider to be a trigger as we did for the doors previously. And we're all done, I guess. Except we need to specify something for us to detect that this is a finish line. So to do that, we can add a tag here. So adding a tag to the finish line will allow us to check if the tag of the thing we've collided with is finish, and if so, we can apply some logic. Perfect. So let's select the player controller again. Player detection, sorry, double click on it. And in the detect doors method, when we are detecting the colliders, so we can diminish this because it's the doors logic. We can also check, we can say else if. So if that's not a door, check if it's something else. Else if detected colliders.i.tag equals finish. So if the object we've collided with has the finish tag, then debug.log, we've hit the finish line. All right, let's check if this works properly. So to do that, we need to specify our finish chunk in the chunks prefab array here in the chunk manager. So let's make the level only 3 chunks long, and the third chunk will be the finish chunk. But if you remember well, by opening the chunk manager, you can see that we were creating the level randomly. So we are going to fix this. We can create a new method here called, let's say, create random level. And we can grab all of this data here and paste it here. So this will allow us to keep the logic for creating a random level in case we need it later. All right. So now we need to create another method here to create an ordered level. Okay, perfect. It's kind of going to be almost the same logic. So we can grab our chunk position. We can grab this loop and drop it here. But here we're going to create a loop going from 0 to the amount of chunks we have. So from 0 to chunk prefabs.length. Okay, or we can create another array here, and I think it's a better solution. So let's make it private. Let's call it chunk, and let's call it level chunks. Okay, perfect. Now we can use it right here. So let's say level chunks.length. And now when selecting the chunk we want to create, we're going to say level chunks instead, and not random, but index I. Okay, cool. And I think we're pretty much done. So now we can call the create ordered level in the start method, and it should be working properly now. So let's select the long chunk again. We should see a long chunk first, then we should see a medium chunk. So both of these are empty, and then a finished chunk. Okay, let's hit play. Perfect. Long chunk, medium chunk, and finished chunk. Okay, so now when hitting the finish line, we should see a debug line right here. Perfect. We've hit the finish line. All right. So what we want to do for now is whenever we hit the finish line, we want to restart the game to get our core loop. Okay, so go back to the player detection script right here. And now we want to use a Unity library, which is called Unity Engine.Scene Management. So to make things simpler, we are just going to reload the same scene again and again whenever we hit the finish line. So let's say scene manager.load scene index 0. Okay, cool. Let's go back to Unity. So why did I say index 0? Because if you click on file right here and select build settings, you can see that our sample scene, which is the one we are using here, it has the index 0. So let's hit play. Okay, wait for the player to hit the finish line. And when he does, the scene should restart. Like so. Perfect. So now you can imagine that if we add doors and enemies to this game, along with some UI, we can have a pretty much complete game with a call loop, and yeah, that's pretty much it. So in the next session, let's create a game manager and some UI to be able to prevent the player from running from the start, and just to better feel that this is a game because it feels empty right now. So let's jump right into it.